Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Now board, all hands man your battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
TGIJJFF. TGIJJFF. You ever hear of TGIF? You ever hear of TGIF?
Yes.
Thank God.
I thought it was a rhetorical question for the
okay.
audience,
Sometimes
not
it
a
is.
pop quiz
Sometimes
for the
it
bunker
is.
boys.
But today it isn't, because today it's TGIJJFF.
Which is
Thank
a clue.
God it's Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky Friday. It's slow on the intro logo. I kill you. Where did we get that thing from?
We made it, Tom. We made it.
Did you? Are you the guilty party?
I'm the guilty party. I'm the guilty party of Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky Friday sounds.
Well, if you're driving in your car, you don't know what we're talking about. Mark made this kind of logo thing for Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky Friday. Every Friday we bring you the what do we bring you? I don't know. It's hard to explain what we do on Friday, especially when the picture's bigger than the screen there. But Friday is a unique day for our friends in the Islamic world. It's Jum'ah Friday, very special day of prayer. And on this, 26th of July, in Ramadan, even more special. But we've seen a cause and effect relationship to a lot of jihad activity coming out of Jum'ah prayer. We've seen it here in the United States. We've seen it in other countries. We've experienced it personally in other countries. So we bring some attention to the unique components, unique elements of the religion of peace. We don't hate Muslims by any means. We've gone over that many, many times. Our issue is exposing the threat doctrine of Islam, qua Islam, Islam, as the Prime Minister of Turkey, Erdogan, said, Islam is Islam is Islam is Islam. He said something like that, something along those lines.
Yes.
As the scholars say, Islam is Islam. As our White House, as our law enforcement, as our military, as our intelligence says, oh no, Islam is a religion of peace. As President Bush said, it's a great religion hijacked by those who are doing the jihad. Folks, this is upside down. Somebody's got to tell you what is right side up. That's our job.
That's right.
Because
we live here on the planet Earth, and we
Yes.
don't live in Twinkle City.
Right.
No, we
so,
don't.
And for that, we proudly wear the label of Islamophobes. Fear of Islam, I guess, or whatever. What do you call Abdullah? You got
I
any name?
call you the Ayatollah of Islamophobia.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I'm a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy. That's right.
All right, in any event, hi everybody. Friday, July 26, 2013. Very interesting show today. 467 days left until...
November.
It's going to be a scary day in America, November 4th, 2014. Only 467 days.
Until Anthony Weiner is mayor.
Oh, no.
Anthony Weiner, mayor of New York. Give me a break. But 467 days. And part of what we do here at the United West, at TrentoVision, is to mobilize people to action, not to riot in the streets or anything like that. We're a country of law, people of law. And the riot is at the ballot box. We simply need to get a bunch of people out of commonly held Judeo-Christian principles of sensible morality and political governance, and reduce the debt issues, reduce the size of government, fight the jihad, all the stuff that's impossible.
I just told these people we're not living
all.
in Twinkle City, Tom.
That's all we
You're
do.
blowing it for me
So,
here.
467
I was
days.
actually encouraged
We've got to
before
work
today.
miracles. We gotta work miracles. So we got to take this world and clean it up with some Windex. I wish it was that easy. God may one day spray Windex all over the earth and do a little clean job, so be ready. But we have special guest with us, and we're trying something different today. Team. Trying something a little different. We're going to try to...
Because there is an M-E in team.
Yes, that's right. We're going to try to completely screw with Diana West's head, I guess, and take her to another level of academic excellence here. We're going to make her a
We're here
virtual...
to shatter her image as a serious person.
Right. Yeah.
As a credible journalist.
Yes, exactly. You're done after today, Diana. We're going
Nowhere to go but in the bunker from there.
We're going to make her a virtual cast member of our ensemble here.
Oh, really? Okay.
We're gonna. That's part
Another
two.
Islamophobe?
That's
What
part
are you
two.
doing to me?
We outnumber you in the bunker, Abdullah.
Part one is we're gonna have an interview. We're gonna interview Diana.
Okay.
Find out what's going on in her life.
All right.
Then
So she's single. And
part two,
you know.
she's going to join our team and interview some other people and get involved in what's going on.
Okay.
How about that?
That sounds
A
great.
little different. Yeah, a little different, but always fun.
All right.
All right, but before we do that, little house cleaning, as I like to
Yes.
improperly say, meaning housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
WNN, that's our radio station. If you're driving anywhere from 300 miles from Miami to Orlando, you can hit your little car button, 1470 WNN 1470. But CJ, if you want to just carry around your phone and listen on this, what
You
do
would
do?
download the iHeartRadio
iHeartRadio
app, which
Were
is
you
so
able to do
easy.
that?
I actually
able to
did
do
it
that?
myself.
Okay.
Even CJ.
And
can
I'm
do
still
it.
dining out on that.
That's right.
And the sound is really good.
That was
Well,
excellent.
our station WNN replays the show 8 o'clock at night or 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And if I'm out, I'll put it on this thing, and I will put it on this and listen, crystal clear digital auto. So that's a good thing.
You're
to do.
so vain.
Yes.
He's listening to himself 24/7.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to find.
He's very
ways
diligent.
To improve this show.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. If you want to come to Israel with us, you got about 2 months and a week to put the details together. About $2,600 for the trip. And if you can swim across the ocean and find your way there, you have no travel costs. But if you want to fly, you may have to come up with the points or travel money. All your relatives have points. Tell them to kick in. You'll go there, and we'll make a video for you. You can show them some travel loggers.
Or just contact the State Department. They'll fly you.
Yes,
for free.
exactly. Unless you're Jewish, then you can't get anywhere.
Don't go via England now. So.
We're not even
Yeah.
going to let Jews into Israel anymore with the way the UK is operating these days. And donate securely at our website, theunitedwest.org or TrentoVision.tv.
That's
What
right.
else? Any
Tax
other
deductible.
housekeeping?
Yes,
Tax deductible?
yes.
Tax exempt.
Watch us on
And you
TrentoVision.tv.
can catch our replays
And
at
you-
any time.
And you
Catch
can
those.
catch the replays at youtube.com/theunitedwest. And you can tweet Tom at the United West.
Yes.
And you can send us fan mail to Tom at
United West, it works too,
TrentoVision.tv or Tom at theunitedwest.org.
Tea Party Community, be sure to go there, teapartycommunity.com. They are our activism partners, over 100,000 people at that social media networking site. Very conservative in its viewpoint and very committed in its interest in changing America for the good. But let's bring our very good friend Diana West. Let's give her a Freaky Friday, Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky Friday.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Great.
You have been busy running around with your new book, American Betrayal.
Yes.
But I've been busy too, reading my book. Oh, can she see me?
KGB.
Yeah.
KGB.
Can you
That's
see
it,
it?
Yeah.
I can see.
Oh, there it is. The KGB,
Bartolievsky?
the inside.
Yes.
Actually, I just got through reading a manuscript, an unpublished manuscript by the Rise and Fall of the Soviet Empire. Fascinating.
See what you've done to all of us, Diana?
You've just inspired
Turned
us all.
us into bookworms.
That's right.
This is actually
Hey.
CJ's. Let me get it back. That's a big book.
No.
Which I had to pick up and look through again. I first read it when it came out back in the early 90s, I guess it was. And I saw the references to the authors in your book, and I said, wait a minute, I know these guys.
Right.
And I looked it up, but I couldn't stop there because I had to look up this guy and this guy and this guy. And now I
All the
find
above,
myself,
right.
I have to reread everything I've read, like since I was in high school, and think about it all over again in a different context just from reading your book. That's why it's taken me so long to read your book. I have to stop and look things up elsewhere, like, what was I thinking about when I first came across that?
Right.
And now I have to rethink the whole thing and say, uh-oh.
Take
Well-
it out of the box.
Yeah, I think we told you CJ was a Russian studies.
Ah, the truth comes out.
Yes, she's a student slash academic slash almost scholar on the issue. Knows quite a bit about
Slash Pinko.
No,
What do you
see,
say?
everybody thought that I was, and you wouldn't believe how freely they spoke in front of me because of it.
it. Oh, that's right. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
But what we want to do today, Diana, is catch up on your life, what you've been up to with your book, traveling around the United States, speaking, see what the take is, what the common man take is, and then what the intelligentsia take is.
Yes, you've already uncovered the
Yes.
interesting divide.
And then,
Yes.
you're going to join us. We have a good friend of ours who we will be interviewing. He's in the middle of a jihadi escapade up in Jacksonville, Florida. And then we're going to throw some other stuff at you. Just have a good time on this wonderful
Okay,
Friday.
I'm ready. I'm
You
game.
You
Anything
game?
for
All right.
Friday.
There you go.
Get us up to date on what you've been up to.
I have been to Florida, North Carolina, all over DC, Virginia, and also out to California with my book, taking it on the road, and have had fantastic response. I've spoken to some Tea Party groups, I've spoken to some other sort of women's groups, spoken to Heritage Foundation. I was at the lefty Washington bookstore Politics and Prose
Ooh.
in Washington, and actually drove a woman to rise up in wrath and throb violently and leave the premises shrieking evil. So that was
wearing
good.
a hijab?
No job. No, this was just a regular old lefty. It was kind of unfortunately it's not in the store's video. They didn't put that part up on their site.
This is fascinating.
But it was
Right.
it was memorable. And I've had a great response. I can't complain. People seem ready for this. I was actually expecting more pushback from people because I have completely messed with the narrative and,
Right.
and messed with our whole preconception of the 20th century. So I was expecting more pushback. People seem ready for it. I have found some pushback. For example, this was a very strange incident, but at Front Page Magazine, our friendly friends at Front Page Magazine, David Horowitz's website, posted a magnificent review that coincided with my trip to Los Angeles. Indeed, they were co-sponsoring one of my events out there. And then they pulled the review down.
They
It
pulled
was
it
gone.
down.
They
Well-
purged it because it was
well-
positive. Now, this is sort of revealing this divide in the intelligentsia that does not want to re-examine the past, does not want to reappraise the past in the ways that I ask readers to do, using their noggins, with the evidence we have of just total infiltration of our mechanisms of policy making, power, Washington, media, and so on, that actually gives us a very intensive look at the penetration by the Soviet Union in the 1930s, in the 1940s, and then we see cover-up after
Right.
that in the 1940s and 1950s. It makes Roosevelt, Truman, and Eisenhower, to name three well-known names, not look good. And it also tends to vindicate the efforts of a Joseph McCarthy and trying to get his arms around the communist penetration. And apparently this was a bridge too far for the folks at Front Page, and my review disappeared. I was told a correct review, well, they didn't say correct, but that's the implication, would follow, and I'm still waiting for the correct review.
My goodness.
But before we go further, at 16 minutes
Yeah.
after
I'm
5
shocked.
It's shocking, I know.
Very
Let me-
disturbing.
I can't believe I'm even hearing this.
Well, we're gonna get into it. We have you here for the
David
the
Horowitz is the
duration.
one who turned me.
Those are good guys.
I know.
But we have an audience out there that's driving in their cars. We're having our own little
They
in-house.
just wrecked.
We're having our own little in-house conversation. We got a bunch of people watching on the internet or their smartphones.
Okay.
We have Diana West with us, author, and she's written a book, American Betrayal. Give us, by now, all you're speaking, you've got your pitch down, your 30-second pitch as to what the proposition is. Tell everyone the proposition of the book, and then we want to dive into the David Horowitz situation. And I want to go back to that crazy lefty at the bookstore, because that always happens. The lefties always blow circuits.
They blow a
you know?
gasket.
And I want to kind of deconstruct what happened as an educational process for our folks here. So give us your pitch. What's the book all about?
Yep.
The book is all about a rewrite of everything you ever think you knew about World War II and the Cold War, basing it on the revelations we got after the dissolution of the Soviet Union that allowed us into the archives, at least some of the archives, to see the extent to which we had American traitors in our government, in various institutions, actually attempting to drive American policy in the Soviet direction. This messes with World War II, it messes certainly with the Cold War, and again, as we were talking about a moment ago, it messes with the whole notion of the so-called Red Scare and red baiting and looking for a communist under every bed, and all of those things that were there to minimize the notion of a threat. Very much as we're seeing today with Islam. I mean, this is what actually drove me to the subject. We see Islamophobes used today in the same way that red baiter was once used in yesterday, to stop the debate, stop the investigations, and stop thinking.
Right.
So that's the sort of what the book does. And it does involve a reassessment of everyone from FDR to Truman to Eisenhower to McCarthy and the other investigators that were so maligned.
Well, I know she's you start with World War II, but the
1930s. Yeah.
Well, actually, when I was reading, a man who grew up in Ukraine, a professor, and he wrote an unpublished manuscript, and very astute in all of Russia history and everything, and really shocked me that he's even taken it back to Trotsky and Lenin. But,
sure.
This was when it started, because Lenin was more of a globalist, and Stalin was more of a just Soviet, build up the Soviet empire first. But Lenin was the one without borders, and so he tried to infiltrate America back even in the 20s.
Yes.
And started into the dock workers unions and everybody else, because that was his initial goal, was to spread communism throughout the world. So that's when it first came about, from his vantage point. And from what yours, just from what you write, is just a brilliant addendum onto the back end of it, and that the whole World War II philosophy was, that the Russians were actually in sync and in league with the Germans at the beginning of World War II, and they didn't want to attack them even to mid-June 1941. They refused to attack them many times. And so they were in league with them. They wanted Germany to fight against the France and the UK and us. And what you're saying here just makes a natural addendum. Yes, they wanted to destroy all Western societies, not just the U.S.
Right. Well, that's absolutely true. And I choose the 30s because something happened in 1933 that I actually now consider America's fall, and that was on November 16th. FDR, President Roosevelt, normalized relations with the Soviet Union. This had not been done before. We had 4 presidents and 6 secretaries of state who refused to normalize these relations for exactly the reasons you just mentioned, that it was a revolutionary entity that wanted to communize the world. And indeed, Stalin may have had different tactics along the way, but ultimately this was his goal as well. Right. And so when we made this agreement, it was based on a lie. It was based on lies, actually, that we signed, basically that made the Soviet Union promise not to try to overthrow us, not to support cadres of agents in America trying to overthrow our Constitution, which, of course, as you mentioned, was already underway in the 1920s and only ramped up in the New Deal of the 1930s, which, of course, was Roosevelt's answer to the Depression, this incredible expansion of government. So, yes, that is exactly... It all flows together. I choose the 30s because you can kind of grab it as when America institutionally gets involved in telling lies with Stalin.
Right. Now, one of the real shocking things that I'm doing the research more in Russia and Germany was they actively were building up Germany before under the Wehrmacht, and therefore they went the. And I think what happened was that they started to say, well, we're making deals with these guys. We can make deals with other people we hate too, which is the U.S. And their idea was to infiltrate Germany, let it build up so it could destroy everybody else. And it's just amazing the infiltrations that these guys are masters at infiltrating societies, almost like the Islamists are.
Except for they didn't really want to destroy everybody. They wanted things to be intact. Their anthem was the Internationale.
Right.
They organized themselves in Tsarist Russian times internationally in Switzerland, the communists did, okay? They wanted a one world order of communism in the same way that Islam wants a one world caliphate. There's a lot of parallels here. I think that's why you're seeing people being more receptive and respective of your book than you might have thought, because there are so many parallels now with the past. And people are less trustful of their government, especially over the last 10 years. And especially over the last few years. And so they really don't put it past the people who are supposed to love and protect our country to actually not have the country's best interests at heart.
I think that's true. And I think also there are things, what people have told me, people have said this to me and written to me, a lot of testimonials really, that things never quite made sense in the conventional narrative. And so when you actually flip it and understand that much of what we were doing was essentially shaped by Soviet interests, it all does tend to fall into place. I mean, it's a terrible place, but it starts to fall into place. And so people, that was kind of what surprised me, that a lot of people already sort of deep inside were wondering about some of the inexplicable.
Because I remember when I studied World War II in college, and I just couldn't grasp, like, the whole Second Front thing with France. We were already in Italy, and I couldn't get it. Okay, and I was thinking, no, but I flipped it on myself. I thought, okay, I must not understand military strategy. I don't understand geopolitics, whatever it is. So I started studying those subjects to see if I could figure out why did we do that, and then I couldn't figure it out still. So I thought, I couldn't make the next logical step because it was inconceivable. So I thought, well, I just must be stupid. Because I just don't get it. Here I've tried, and I just don't get it. And nobody I ask seems to have any concern about answering it. And that was kind of surprising to me.
We're going to have to move ahead and move on here.
We got
a guest soon coming in.
This is not your show anymore, Tom.
Yeah, I know.
We've infiltrated the bunker.
We've infiltrated your organization. We've taken it over.
Yeah, the communists are in
But can I make one cultural observation about the book? One cultural observation about the book, because it does come into play for the next guest, who is an activist, okay? And early on in the book, when you're talking about George H.W. Bush and the Soviet Union coming down and his reaction to it, I thought this country would go wild and it would be like New Year's Eve. And it wasn't. There was no
Nobody here.
we won the war and nobody went out in the streets and celebrated, and I didn't get it. And I didn't get why we didn't act like winners in this.
You mean like when we
and
got
try to
Bin
reshape the
Laden?
world in our image like we're supposed to be doing, because that's in our national security interest and our cultural interest to do that. And so it occurred to me from rereading that, okay, we just have no American identity anymore. And what you're saying in the book about the West isn't the West as you know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
and
talk
George H.W. is identifying more with Gorbachev and trying to
Right.
keep him in power and tell the Ukrainians and the Poles to
Yeah.
avoid
Don't split
suicidal
off your republics.
nationalism.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
So-
disgusting.
One real quick
Real
point.
quick, we
Real
gotta-
quick.
we gotta move
One of the fascinating things I just learned was 1932, the New York Times won a Pulitzer Prize for the reporting that there was no famine in the Ukraine. And do you know about that, Diana? About
I can't hear you too well. What'd you
I
say
said
about
the-
the
I don't think the
Ukraine?
mic is on. I don't
the famine in the Ukraine. The New York Times was in league with the Russians back in 1932, going to Ukraine, reporting that there was no famine. There was massive amounts of famine, millions
Sure.
of people dying, and they were literally eating each other in the streets due to this famine. And the New York Times and the papers and everything are just totally in league with all these people back in the 1930s. And why we keep that paper as the one of record is beyond me.
Well, actually, it's worse than that. I actually found the most amazing memoir by a man named Eugene Lyons, who was one of the reporters. He was the United Press reporter in Moscow, and he describes getting together with the other Western correspondents and a Soviet censor in a Moscow hotel and figuring out how to smack down this one reporter named Gareth Jones, who had come out of the Ukraine and told the world what was going on and how they could discredit him. And there's this ugly, ugly little scene that I go through in gruesome detail in the book to show how they were colluding
Right.
with the Soviet censors, because of course when the other man started talking about it, all the New York editors were calling Moscow and saying, where's the famine, where's the story? That's when you get the famous story by Walter Durante of the New York
Yes.
Durante. That's a 1930 who won the Pulitzer
Yeah.
Prize for his
Yep,
report.
and then shortly after that, we recognize the Soviet Union, and I think that's very akin to if we had 1945. You scramble things a little. You have 6 million Jews killed, and some country X decides to recognize the Nazi government shortly
Right.
after. I mean,
Right.
it's a moral, unconscionable moral act to think of, but it was even in 1934. It was the
But
same
you can see how
morality.
going back all those decades ago, how the elite of the media turned against each other and colluded to present a united front of an untruthful reality to the American reading public.
Oh.
Right.
And it sounds,
Deja vu all
geez,
over
so
again.
much
Really?
like today,
Wow.
which is why this show and shows like this are so important, because you can't shut us off.
No.
Right.
And you need to keep us on the air, and
pay
you
us
can
off.
do
Maybe
so.
You can pay us
Maybe
off.
You
pay
can
us
do
off,
so
that's
if you
Shut us
donate
off.
securely at theunitedwest.org or
I still-
TrentoVision.tv.
Go ahead.
I
Thank
still
you.
want to hear about this lefty lady at the lefty bookstore.
At the Lefty Bookstore.
And Diana is
He
not-
always wants to hear the sensational stuff.
Oh, no. I mean, anybody
It's
who
entertaining.
speaks- anybody
We're
who
into the
speaks-
entertainment business.
This
You
is how
gotta
we-
hear
this
that
is-
crazy
this is
stuff.
how we make jihad
Diana,
fun.
by the way, I read a great review on on American Thinker. Someone wrote an article about it and really liked the book.
Oh, good. Great.
If you could
yeah,
put her
it's been
website-
it's been getting some very good reviews. I had a fabulous review in a newspaper from North Carolina called the Smoky Mountain News, and it's beautifully written. The man completely got what I was doing, and it's kind of like New York Times, eat your heart out. The people are getting it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was
Yeah.
it was that kind of thing, and again, it sort of is. People respond really well when they hear the book, sort of the full book lecture, except the lady at Politics and Prose, which I will get to. I think basically she did not want to hear about a story about American traders in Washington, D.C. because, you know, we don't use that kind of language even to this day. Most people, when we talk about, for example, the various archives that confirm what a lot of the red hunters were trying to figure out back in the
Right.
day, we don't really talk about them as American traders. We talk about them as Soviet assets or,
Right.
you know, agents, collaborators, but this notion that they were American citizens born and bred who then were loyal to Stalin, who was trying to overthrow the Constitution of the United States and take away all of our liberties. We never really go there. And I think that just when you talk about it in very frank and open language, it's very disturbing, particularly when you get into the mythology of World War II, where I argue at a certain point, the war had to last longer in the minds of these Soviet agents in order for Stalin to move into Europe, because in 1943 he was still in the Soviet Union. And by the end of the war, of course, he had half of Europe. That's not an accident. I think there was policy making that was influenced by these agents that kept the war going. And again, the parallels to today are stark. We always talk, usually when we don't talk about American betrayal, we talk about Islamic influence on the policymaking chain in Washington, Muslim Brotherhood, Saudi money, all of these same things that shift us, that move us in terms of influence, in terms of disinformation. Same thing was happening back in the day, and this is something Americans need to come to grips with if we're going to deal with it now.
And you know what? You can't talk about it or write about it without going straight to the top. You have to go to Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Because it's right under him, it's right around him, it's right next to him. And
yeah, it destroys him as an icon.
You can't say, how much did he know and when did he know it or anything like that. But even to suggest that such an iconic figure as Franklin D. Roosevelt, who saved the United States of America, who saved the Western world, is culpable in this takeover of the United States government, pretty much, and complicit with Stalin. That's like saying Lincoln owned slaves.
Right.
I mean,
well, I'm going to be the devil's advocate on this. I mean,
who wants to do the research to prove that Lincoln was a slave owner?
Well, the devil's advocate part of this is obviously that no way we would have won World War II without the assistance of Russia. It was a massive two-front war, and you do any type of wargaming strategy, and it would not have. It'd been very difficult for us to win.
Well, I don't know.
I disagree. I disagree. Certainly that is the conventional wisdom, and certainly there is a very strong, obviously, wargaming strategy. And of course, we saw the war end in this way. However, there are many people at the time who are arguing in terms of allowing, first of all, at the very beginning, before we were involved, allowing Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia to fight each other. I mean, this, of course, goes back to Sun Tzu in terms of setting your enemies, and Machiavelli, having your enemies destroy each other.
King Kong and Godzilla.
This also goes to the notion that there was a significant anti-Nazi German resistance. I think this was really what set the lady over the edge. We don't really know about, we certainly don't study. And they were, in many instances, trying to reach out to British and American diplomats, envoys of governments, and so on. Again, this notion was, we will deliver Hitler's Germany to you, the hierarchy of the Nazi Reich, in exchange for help in keeping communist Russia out of any vacuum in Eastern and Central Europe. When you have communist-occupied Washington, D.C. and London, that is a non-starter. And so what I'm trying to argue is that there were various ways to war game a war where you do not have this need for this ongoing two-front. Actually, it was about 9 fronts at this point. That was another aspect of mythology. But even more important is the point that getting involved with Stalin to begin with, I suggest, was the result of a major influence operation that whitewashed communism like we whitewash Islam, that whitewashed Stalin like we whitewash Muhammad or other figures in the Islamic hierarchy, that twisted our own aims. And the important thing I think to remember in all this is that Britain and America wanted to destroy Nazi Germany, and Stalin wanted to replace it with himself. He wanted to move into the vacuum. And so the 3 European major allies were always, without knowing it, Stalin knew it, and some people inside America and Britain knew it, but they were always at cross purposes. The goal of the 3 was not kill Hitler, end the war. For 2 of the 3 it was. For the 3rd it was keep this war going until I can move into Europe and be master and take over the rest. And I think that is something that historians have not really dealt with.
Wow. lot of stuff. We got to move on.
I could.
I know. I'm.
Gotta move on. Yeah, I know.
I know.
Everybody wants to continue talking about this.
Yeah.
But we will have Diana back regularly. We have a percolating story here in South Florida. And what we're going to do right now, because we have to get the next guy in, and though we do some cutting edge work here at TrentoVision, our tools are a little bit behind the technological edge.
Don't you leave
Don't-
us.
don't throw me under
you
the
leave
bus.
us.
Sit
I'm bringing
there.
you right
You
back.
sit there. We're going to put you on ice for about a minute. We're going to go
Okay.
get the other guy, then bring both of you
Okay.
in.
All right.
While we're doing that, I'm going to explain to everybody where we are and what we're doing. Hi, everybody. We just had 35 minutes or so, wonderful minutes.
That
with,
went by so fast.
I know, with Diana West, author of Death of a Grown-Up, and the book that basically said grown-ups don't know how to think clearly anymore, analytically, in America. And she followed that award-winning, groundbreaking book with her new book, American Betrayal. And the past half hour was a discussion on that, the fact that America has been betrayed by its leaders on several levels, one of which, and it's the thesis of her book, the whole Cold War and the communism ideology, that we capitulated, our government, our leading institutions, more so to the communist doctrine and communist worldview than history nicely records here in the United States of America, particularly with great icons like FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower. And Eisenhower was everybody's hero. Won the war, became president. So to say anything, to say he was soft on the commies, or he wasn't hard when he should have been, gets some people, I would think conservatives more than lefties, a little upset. But that was the analysis.
Maybe that's why Front Page doesn't publish.
Yeah, we got a little developing story with an in-house debate here. Front Page magazine, headed up by David Horowitz and Jamie Glazov, published a wonderful review written by a friend of ours, Mark Tapson. Mark did a great review, and then it was taken down, but the review by then had gone to other websites, so we were able to read it. I'm still waiting for what Front Page, who is great people, how they're going to wiggle their way out of this. And maybe they have another view. I mean, you can disagree with Diana, but why pull down one review? Put two of them up.
I mean, the hallmark, the whole center of David Horowitz is academic freedom.
Former communist. Yeah.
And I just can't believe.
But
I wonder if he knows.
We don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
But really, the argument Diana and others have made, if you have a positive article about her book on your website and you don't like it, and you have in the works a negative article or what you believe is a more true argument, leave them both up so the people can see. I mean, this is
well, the people can read the book and decide for themselves also, but it's supposed to be a place where there's discussion and discourse.
Yeah, to get to the bottom of it, because her book is
it challenges all of us. It's not just liberals or conservatives or communists or anti-communists or counter-jihadis versus jihadis or anything else.
And our book is a prelude to the contemporary problem that in a structural way is exactly the same. Just take communism and replace it with Islam, Islamic jihad. Whereas we were deaf, dumb, and blind, we being the political, intelligence, and military structures in the Cold War, coming out of World War II in the Cold War, more so than we ought to have been. And when individuals stepped up, like Joseph McCarthy, and said, hey, we got a serious communist problem, we played that hand improperly, and now he's looked at as a Islamophobe in the early days, a
hater.
Yeah, a hater. Well, the same situation occurs today with people that are raising the alert.
Contrast McCarthy with Michelle Bachmann.
The analogy is so historically strong, it isn't funny.
Except we don't have Bachmanism yet because she hasn't been allowed to hold her hearings.
Michelle Bachmann, June of last year, 2012. She sits on a select committee to oversee the intelligence community, standing committee, and she wrote a letter to the IGs, the Inspector Generals. Hey guys, I think we got a problem of Muslim Brotherhood operational infiltration into our government and the White House and the military.
And considering how many wars we're in all over the world,
You would think that
wouldn't
the other
you,
side would-
considering that we've spent $1 trillion on this problem, wouldn't you say, oh my gosh, do we? Well, we must find out the truth.
And Michelle wrote this letter, had 4 other congresspeople joined in signing it, one of whom was Tom Rooney here, our Florida congressman, not far from the bunker. And you would think, hey, they're doing their due diligence, doing their job. They were castigated, fried, not just by the left, but by McCain and other conservative leaders saying, how could you even raise questions like this? This is infuriating to me. And it leads right to our next subject here. Do we have Randy with us?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Florida has become, and do we have Diana back with us?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Florida has become, or has been, we are unveiling the level, the depth of the,
Very good.
yes, the Islamic jihad activity under the surface here in Florida. We've been doing that for several years. Well, we just found out that a young jihadi was busted about 400 miles north of where we are, up in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is one of the largest cities in the state of Florida. I think it's the second largest city. And a good friend of ours, Randy McDaniels, he's with Act for America, an organization that everybody should join, Act for America. They're one of the key organizations fighting this battle. Randy has some really breaking news. We read about the news report of the jihadi a couple of days ago. But Randy's brought a whole nother level in, but we're going to have him come on in a second. But can we bring Diana in and we can introduce both of them to one another? Are they both visible?
Mike?
We're trying something on our new tech now. We got you, Randy, there. I see Randy. I don't think you can see me. And there's
there they
Diana.
are.
Okay.
Yes, you're back. You're back.
We have both of you on our screen right now. Screen right. If people are watching television, Randy, you're on the right. Say hello, Randy, to everybody.
Hello.
Is he frozen?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
He's
yes,
frozen.
yes.
I think he's frozen.
No, he's not frozen.
He's not
He just-
frozen? Randy,
this is a
wave
picture.
to
It's a
us.
picture. It's a picture.
Oh, it's a picture.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we don't have him on Skype?
Video's not coming through.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
On his end, the video's not coming
Okay,
through.
okay.
Okay. I was
So
getting
we're gonna-
concerned. I thought, uh-oh,
Yeah, he
he
looks
can't
frozen.
blink.
Okay.
And you were born
To that. You're born him stiff.
Our Skyped-in guest doesn't blink. That's scary. But it's just a picture. His video wasn't working. And Diana's with us. Randy, have you met Diana? And Diana, have you met Randy McDaniels?
Not in person.
Okay. Randy's done a lot of work with Team B2 folks, and Diana's one of the members of Team B2. So you guys have a lot in common. Randy, why don't you take the floor and talk? We're going to move your picture there because it's scary.
It is Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah, it is. But we're going to put the article up. Why don't you briefly tell us what's going on, and then Diana, you're now one of us, Diana. Okay. So
Yeah.
you may have to fight for your airtime
Fight for your
because
airtime,
it's
Diana.
tough.
Leave your brain cells at the door.
All that academic communist stuff. You're in the street now, okay? You're down in
Right.
the street, all
Got
right?
it.
Randy, why don't you set the stage for this serious situation in Jacksonville?
Well, what we have is we have a young teen who was radicalized, and the mosque itself is claiming that, taking credit obviously for calling the FBI, which I believe they did. Here we have a white male who kind of was dressed more in formal garb at the mosque, supposedly approaching other teens about waging jihad in Yemen. And the mosque called the FBI investigates, but obviously the media is slobbering all over this, is giving him credit for calling, but the real question is, this particular mosque was investigated through the Shariah mapping project, our friend Dave Gavatt, and received a score out of 1 to 10, a 9 on Shariah adherence, and an 8 on the potential for waging jihad or producing a jihadist. And when you look at that,
Wait, Randy, let me get this straight for our audience. It's 46 minutes. after 5 o'clock on Friday, July 26th. Jumpin Jum'ah Freaky Friday, everybody. Right here in Florida, we're talking right now about Jacksonville, Florida mosque. What's it called? What's the exact name of it? Northeastern Islamic Center?
Islamic Center of Northeast Florida. And our good friend Parvez Ahmed, the former national chairman of CARE, Hamas, is a board member and the official spokesman involved with this case. So, of course, his name's plastered all over, and they're riding this thing for all they can get. But when I started looking at it, you know, we were already doing some investigations because they have a booth that they run at a flea market in which they're actually selling Saeed Qutb, which is not Saeed Qutb, but Maududi. And as you know, Saeed Qutb and Maududi are probably the two most radical Islamists in the Muslim Brotherhood that are fueling the rebirth of the third and final jihad and all the terrorist groups worldwide, pretty much Islamic terrorist groups, that is.
All right, hang on one second. For our folks driving in a car, this stuff is a little new to them, some of them. And our folks watching on TrentoVision.tv, listening on WNN 1470. Up in Jacksonville, Florida, there's a mosque, the Islamic Center of Northeast Florida. Parvez Ahmed. Parvez Ahmed is a professor at Northeast Florida University. That's his picture right there on the screen. And he's a Islamic scholar and a very, very highly respected Muslim leader in the world.
Very, very fine man.
What do you think of him, Abdullah?
Fantastic man.
Okay.
Amongst the very best that this country can offer.
Many of the politicians in the state of Florida swoon over this guy.
He's on the Human Rights Commission or something,
isn't
isn't
he? He's also an avid supporter of the Free Sammy Al-Arian campaign.
Yeah.
And he's also a University of North Florida professor of finance, and where he proudly boasts in many, many articles Sharia finance and all the other stuff, and tries to get that, throughout the country, and it's a very good thing.
He's heavily duty there.
He's a total
so
Islamic
he's a moderate
dirtbag.
then, right?
And he was the director. Randy, he was the national director of CARE at one point, Council on American Islamic Relations.
He was the head of Florida for 6 years, and then he took over as the national chairman for 4 years after Omar Ahmed's statement about Islam not being equal to any other faith, to be dominant, and that Islam should be the only religion on earth. After that went public, he stepped down, and Parvez Ahmed stepped right up in his place.
Well, hang on. Diane, I'm going to ask you a question here in a second. What we have, folks, so we have a mosque in Northeast Florida. Then we have a Muslim Brotherhood operative who's as smooth as the silkiest,
he's smooth.
fine pressed virgin oil you've ever
Armani
seen in your
Jihadi.
life and poured on your lettuce. And we have a 19-year-old who was in the same mosque as Parvez Ahmed, and then became, I don't like the term self-radicalized. He saw the light of Islam, wound up overseas in Jordan, right? Randy was in Jordan?
Yeah, he was actually trying to get to Yemen, and he went to Israel first, was denied entry, and then he went back to Poland, ended up in Jordan, and had a contact there by the name of Nidal and another gentleman by the Sheikh Youssef. And we want really, how did he get these contacts and who paved these ways?
Right.
It's the interesting question that I have, because according to Parvez Ahmed, he attended the mosque for close to a year, and while they noticed he was dressing in radical clothes, why wasn't he approached? Why didn't they show him the straight path? Why didn't they guide him? They spend a lot of time in the Jacksonville community talking about those that misunderstand Islam, how to correct them. But yet Parvez contacted the FBI after a year, but for about a year they let the kid do what he wanted to do.
Well,
I don't think
can
Parvez.
I say-
I don't think Parvez exactly contacted the FBI. I think they gave it over to the lawyers.
Lawyers,
of
the
mosque.
lawyers did.
But Diana, you're very involved in fighting the jihad, obviously, and you've just come out of a gigantic time warp bubble, writing this book for a couple of years. Taking a look, an objective look at the situation in Jacksonville. Share your thoughts as our new virtual member of our cast here. Share your thoughts at this point.
If I were writing a thriller, I would turn this into a big setup so that then the mosque leader gets all the slobbery press that he's receiving for having turned in the wayward jihadist.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
A setup.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
and
That
Randy,
got, that now you spin it the way you want, and you get patted on the head for being moderate.
and Randy is hitting that what you just said, that obvious PR angle right now, hitting it square on. What are some of your key questions in response to what may be happening at that mosque that you're raising, Randy? That's why we got you here today.
Well, the questions are, first of all, when did the team convert? I mean, obvious questions that the media won't ask. Was this conversion a result of outreach from the Northeast Florida Islamic Center? Why didn't members of the center frequently conduct the outreach, like I said earlier, to dispel misunderstandings about Islam? Reach out to Mr. Bell, especially Parvez Ahmed, a Human Rights Commissioner. How long did the team attend the Islamic Center prior to leaving to embark on this training for Holy War? Very importantly is, how did he make these connections with AQAP or Ansar al-Sharia? Were they by the Islamic Center, or did he do it himself online? And the last thing was, the basic question is, are there indications that the Islamic Center of Northeast Florida has the potential to produce jihadists, or could this team have been radicalized as a result of his attendance at this particular mosque? And to answer that, I think you take into account the fact that the mosque, in our investigations at the booth at the flea market, they're selling books by Maududi, like I said earlier, and Said Qutb, which are militant ideologues whose writings are credited with the rapid spread of Islamic jihad and terrorism worldwide over the past several decades. And when you take into account that, and then you have the former national chairman of Hamas in America, CARE, a board member of the group, as well as someone who's connected directly to King Fahad and sheikhs in Dubai, who can solicit and receive up to $50 million to build an Arab-friendly environment in America. I think when you add it all up, it does have the propensity to produce jihadists.
Yeah, Randy, we're starting to lose you. Your phone is starting to. You must be driving or something. But we got the questions for sure. Mark, you had a question, and then we're going to ask you for one last statement, Randy. What needs to happen at this point? And then we're going to let you go because we got a bad connection. Mark, what was your question?
Yeah, my question was, this guy Shelton Bell is his name.
You just had a picture of him on the screen.
Yeah, I just had a
He's
picture.
a white guy,
He's a white
man.
guy.
What's his Islamic name?
And this actually goes to prove, our theory that that this has nothing to do with race or Muslim. It has everything to do with an ideology of Islam, of how they radicalize people here in America through people like Parvez Ahmed and others. And my general overall question is this has been an ongoing, persistent thing by Randy up in Jacksonville, rightly so, about Parvez Ahmed being with CARE and everything at all. Is there been any awakening inside the University of North Florida, the City Council of Jacksonville, or any? Because Parvez Ahmed also sits on the board of the
Human Rights Commission.
Human Rights Commission. Has there been any awakening in Jacksonville to the danger of the people like Parvez Ahmed who assist in radicalizing Americans?
I would say answer yes and no. And what I mean by that is yes, in the fact that he was just reappointed about 6 months ago, and we had a lot more opposition from the public. However, within the leadership and the folks that are gaining money and dollars, there's not. And what I mean by that is we're getting ready to have another Islamic center built on the campus at UNF. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
And another large mosque built off of Bay Meadows, another substantial, influential area of Jacksonville, as a result of Parvez Ahmed.
Wow.
Very good.
And-
All right, Randy, we're going to have to let you go because the connection's very bad, and our radio station's not going to like that. But we did get what you said. And our Imam
Keep us
Abdullah is
posted.
doing backflips
Very
here.
good. I'm so happy to hear
If
all
you
of
build
this
them,
good
they
news.
will
Makes me
come.
so happy.
Yes. All right, Randy Jackson. Let's check. Randy Jackson.
Randy Jackson.
Randy in Jacksonville. Let's check
Thanks
in.
for having me.
Let's check in with
Bye,
you
Randy.
next. Let's check in with you next
Thank
week.
you guys for what you're doing.
We want you to follow up on this. We'll check in with you next week. All right, Randy McDaniels up in Jacksonville. Thank you. Let's cut his phone off because
it's noisy.
it's noisy. And
I had a comment, Tom.
yeah, come on back, Diana. Where are you?
I just had a
See
comment.
how she jumps
about-
in naturally like that?
Yes, I did. Just like CJ will say.
Okay, there you are. Go ahead.
Well, it just, when we're talking about the seat on the Human Rights Commission in Florida, it echoed in my mind that when Pamela Geller was barred from speaking at the synagogue up in Great Neck, New York,
Yep.
one of her lead tormentors there from the local Islamic center, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a well-known one,
Yeah.
also has
In
a
Long
seat
Island.
on
Long
the
Island
Yeah.
Center.
That's right.
Human
Long
Rights
Island.
Commission. So this is the kind
This is
of
the pattern.
movement.
Yeah.
Well, and also,
the
and also to highlight what you're saying, also Ahmed Badir down in Tampa is on the Human Rights Commission board. Influence it. That's been their
these
profile.
are low-level political fruits that are easy picking for Islamists.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
bad
I know
word.
you hate that word.
hate that word.
Okay. What do you want to call them?
Is-
Islamic operatives in the United
Oh, that's a good one.
States.
Islamic
Okay, how about
covert-
Islamic operatives?
Islamic
Okay.
agents. Islamic agents.
Islamic operatives in the United States, that's their entry into American politics. They get the diversity, diversity committee on the school board, the Human Rights Commission of the city. These are things that nobody looks to go after. They're not paid jobs. They're not high profile. They're just little notches on the
But the
resume.
question is-
How did the
Wait, hang on,
Soviets-
hang
how
on,
did
hang on,
Soviet-
hang on, hang on.
And because of political correctness, it's easy for them to be smooth and to get on, and then everybody around them could feel good. They've got their Muslim now.
The question to our American Betrayal author
That's where I was
is:
going.
is there a
Similar.
historical analogy here with the communist infiltration, penetration, getting onto these kinds of boards?
Onto the dock workers board or
Absolutely,
something.
the Communist Front Group. I mean, we talk about Islamic front groups all the time, and front groups, the virtue of front groups is that they are filled with normal, innocent people who are the front. But when you get enough of the hardened agent inside a group or driving a group, it does become a vehicle for advancing the ideological assault.
Yeah.
And I would
Right.
say these human rights commissions at a certain point
Yep.
do get, I will use the word hijacked, which is normally a word I don't
right,
use.
exactly.
And it is Jumpin Jum'ah.
Right.
Well, to
They
go-
do get, diverted or subverted, and I think we're seeing a pattern here with these human rights
Yes.
commissions for
Yeah.
sure.
To underscore that, the Long Island situation, the Islamic Center of Long Island, in that county, the Human Rights Commission that the Muslim leader was on, there were 13 members on the Human Rights Commission. How many were Muslims?
I think it was
Six
six.
of them.
I think
Six
it
of
was
them?
One
6
short
out
of
of
half.
13.
Yeah.
They were like
Less than-
2% of the population,
One-
but they were
one- less-
50% of the human rights
Less
board.
than 1% of the
Yeah.
population.
So that's the tipping point.
Sure.
But I mean, people look at us and go, "We got to one after."
Oh, we got one after.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had an extra.
Thank
minute.
you.
People look at us like, "Oh, you guys are crazy." All that. What's that one mean?
You have 1 minute.
Oh yeah, 1 minute left. Yeah.
Ayatollah.
We got 1 minute left. This has gone very quickly.
Yes.
It has, yeah.
I like your new Islamophobe.
Do you have any questions for her, by any chance, as we wind
Close it
down?
out.
It's the nicest thing anyone said to me.
Are you
all
going to
day.
come back?
But no, I'm asking Abdul if he has a question.
Oh, I thought I didn't know.
just had,
thought it was a you.
I read an article that you had sent Mr. Tom Uriel about the United States warning Hezbollah of a bombing, and I find this crazy. I hate those Shiites. What are you doing? Kill them!
You have 15 seconds, Diana.
I could begin to unravel it. I don't get it. I am beyond understanding, except the fact that John Brennan is the head of our CIA,
Okay, there's
and
your answer.
I'll leave it there.
Oh,
your
she
answer.
doesn't want to say it. Okay,
Okay.
I'll say it.
No,
John
no,
Brennan's
no.
a Muslim.
I see nothing.
We broke the story here. All right. Diana West, thank you very, very much.
Thank
Let's
you,
say goodbye to
everybody.
Diana. We have to go
Yeah.
right now.
Assalamualaikum.
Jumpin
Join.
Jum'ah Freaky Friday. See you, Diana.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.